Hello, welcome to the Tech for Good podcast. We are very passionate about two things, technology and our world. In each pod, we will be interviewing some fascinating people, business leaders, but those with a special interest in solving the biggest issues facing humanity today. Think the environment, think healthcare provision during a pandemic, think global social injustice. If you want to know more about technology's immense potential to fix and transform, then you're in the right place. In this episode, I speak to Tom Wright. Tom is head of digital engagement for NDL Software, a technology company delivering solutions exclusively to the public sector. He believes the sector has recently turned a corner when it comes to digital transformation and innovation. In the interview, we discuss how RPA can be the first step to change for public organisations, and Tom shares insights on his own career. But first, I ask him if the perception of the public sector being behind the curve with technology is a fair one.
Traditionally, maybe. I don't think that's the case anymore. If I'm completely honest, I think obviously the public sector's moved on a hell of a lot, even just in the last couple of years, really. There's a hell of a lot of really exciting tech out there, whether it be AI. Obviously, we provide RPA, robotic process automation, apps, wearables. There's loads of really interesting and kind of forward-thinking tech out there, and I think NHS in particular, they're using data much more efficiently. It's much more accessible throughout trust. They're sharing it much better within their own trust. Obviously, the aim is to try and share it better with neighbouring organisations as well. That being said, I think from an NHS perspective, there's still paper out there. The aim is to try and eradicate all the paper and use technology rather than that kind of cumbersome paper. There's still some out there. We're getting much better, but there's still a little bit of work to go on that. And we need to definitely 100%. We need to try and remove all the paper and use some of the technology that we use at home and in our personal lives.
We at Tech for Good would definitely support that notion for sure. You said, Tom, that the last couple of years have seen things change a bit. You mentioned the NHS. Healthcare is obviously a big area in public sector. Is it healthcare that you've mainly seen kind of things accelerate when it comes to technology adoption, or other areas, maybe government as well, other public sector areas? Which areas have been the most common, would you say, when it comes to this?
Yeah, no, I definitely think NHS. I think there's been a hell of a lot of different pieces moving forward, and a lot of work that's gone into that. But obviously, as well, social care. We work with police as well, and there's been a lot of enhancements and involvements across those as well. I think my own personal view, I'm really passionate about the NHS. I'm really passionate about using technology to try and remove burdens from clinicians, so they can just focus on doing their job, I suppose. Rather than it sounds silly, I suppose, but rather than getting bogged down in paper and admin tasks, let them go out and care for patients. I think from an NDL perspective, well, we've seen a hell of a lot of that over the years. Kind of give you some examples. Using digital technology. We work with a lot of trusts around mobile apps. So clinicians, rather than kind of having information trapped on paper, they use mobile apps. Examples of that would be, Nottingham Healthcare, Merseycare, around mental health observations, looking after some really vulnerable patients, having access to the right information at the right time so they're able to kind of care for those patients better, really.
Yeah. And really good examples. And I think it shows what can be achieved, especially, in public sector where you are very literally at the service of the public. Technology can have such a positive impact, can't it? But what would you say, Tom, are the biggest challenges that public sector organisations still face when it comes to technology adoption?
So the biggest challenge is probably culture still, culture. Technology for some people is still a scary term. They kind of jump to almost like the worst case scenario, if you like. We We provide RPA software, and a lot of people refer to that software as kind of robots. And I think a lot of people have been watching kind of AI, the AI movie when the robots take over the world and all that stuff. But I think we can eradicate a lot of that with an education piece, working with the end users, doing our best to truly understand what they want to do and building solutions around them. So instead of having off the shelf solutions, sit down with users, find out what their requirements are, truly understand what the benefits of creating digital technology and providing digital transformation in that area, and doing a really good job to try and educate them and explain what the benefits are. And if you work with us on X, Y, and Z, this is what you're going to get out of it. And I think if you kind of carry that out, that cultural and that jump and that cultural challenge is much less. And I think I've worked at NDL for just over 10 years, and now is completely unrecognizable from what it was 10 years ago. People are much more au fait with technology now because they use it at home, whether it's Alexa listening to music, or using an iPad shopping. It's much more familiar. So I think that step into digital transformation is now much lower, but it's still something as a technology company we educate our customers with to try and approach these projects in the right way.
Hello, I'm Daniel Brigham, editor of Tech for Good magazine. I hope you're enjoying this podcast, and if you want more, you can head over to techforgood.net for some compelling and thought-provoking stories. From high-tech insect farms that could solve world hunger to a global mission to counter the spread of COVID-19 disinformation, we've got Tech for Good covered. You can read and subscribe at techforgood.net.
For those organizations that are maybe still have that fear that you mentioned earlier and are struggling to make that first step, on the topic of process automation, so RPA, which is something you guys do, like how much potential is there in RPA to be that first step for organizations? Because there are a lot of things that can be automated and a lot of things that can be transformed quite quickly using this technology. So for the public sector, that must be quite appealing.
Yeah, certainly. Yeah, I mean that we get kind of told that every day, every engagement we have with customers and organisations that are just starting to work with us. I think RPA it is proven to make a difference in the NHS. There's lots of success out there. Organisations using our platform, and I think, as you said, there's the possibilities are almost endless if you like. It's a very flexible tool as long as there are rules. There's logic. You can program a software robot to kind of carry out that process and fully automate that process. I suppose the only question is it worthwhile? Is there some benefits at the end? What is the benefits? Is it releasing time from clinicians so they can again carry out their proper role, I suppose, if you like. But RPA, again, it's such a flexible tool, whether it's migrating millions of documents. So I'm going to just kind of spit out a few examples, across our community. We've seen trust migrate from one system to another system, migrating millions and millions of records, pulling information from lots of different legacy, potentially siloed information, and then presenting that to a clinician as one view, which will then allow them to make a more informed decision because they're presented with all the information rather than being kind of trapped across all these different back office. Cost savings, eradicating the rekeying of information. We still see people kind of plugging the gap of rekeying information from system A to system B. And overall, in summary, I suppose it gives you a real opportunity to get access to the right information that you need to kind of carry out your role, do it quickly and easily, and again just allow clinicians to focus on their particular role rather than being bogged down in laborious kind of admin based tasks, which I certainly know I don't. I certainly, it's not my favorite part. There's always going to be a little bit of admin, but if we can try and remove as much as possible, it's got to be It's got to be a good thing. And just focusing on RPA, we're seeing a number of real interesting projects around kind of intelligent automation. So aligning RPA alongside AI, alongside cognitive kind of services, whether that be chatbots or machine learning or all those other fantastic emerging technologies. What you're able to do with RPA is align them with your kind of your existing potentially legacy landscape. Using RPA as the kind of almost plugging the gap between this newer technology to potentially some of your older systems as well. So yeah, just a fantastic opportunity. But again, as I started, there's lots of success out there. This is not a new thing. We work with lots and lots of trusts. So there's lots of evidence out there. So if you're looking into it, go and speak to some of these trusts that have already created those automations.
Yeah, it's a really interesting and such a high potential area, Tom. Now, for listeners who maybe aren't aware, can you give us an overview of what NDL does? What is your position in the market?
So we're a software company. So I'll start with the basics. We're a software company. We're really focused on trying to remove manual tasks and paper from the public sector, whether that be NHS or police, education, all those kind of other segments that I mentioned. We provide low-code software tools and services so that organizations can build very specific solutions and wrap that technology around their individual requirements. We see, lots of organizations kind of doing the same things, but they have different teams, they have different departments, they have different processes. So our ethos is give organizations the tools to make a difference, make them easy, make them simple to use, provide the training and allow them to build their own solutions. A little bit around the technology, we have a digital layer. Now that enables organizations to create and deploy e-forms and mobile apps, really, really quickly. Lots of examples in health, anything from clinical photography, collecting immunization consent, pre-op assessment. We've seen obviously lots and lots of vaccination projects and testing over the last few weeks and over the last few months and year, but also non-clinical focuses. So we have trust collecting patient meals on large acute wards. Rather than using menu cards, we can use apps. So, a real kind of diverse set of different solutions focused around apps and e-forms. And as we discussed earlier, we have an RPA offering, which uses software robots to remove admin tasks, have software carrying out admin-based tasks, rather than having clinicians or potentially back office staff doing that. So there's kind of separate offerings, but what we see a hell of a lot of in our community is the two kind of layers being used together. It gives you the ability to have kind of a modern front end offering for clinicians, but also have the robots kind of plug in the gap with the back office as well. So it gives you a lot of flexibility, the two kind of layers working together.
Now, Tom, you mentioned culture earlier and how important culture is to sort of technology adoption. What about the culture of your own company, NDL? I know there's a real motivation to work for what you call the public good. What do you mean by that? Does that kind of passion for public service and the potential of technology to transform public service drive your company every day?
Yes, certainly. I mean, that's kind of what we're about. We only work in the public sector. We don't work in kind of financial or insurance markets. We know what our experience, where our experience lay. We understand the public sector delicacies, shall we say, and potential. If we're looking at RPA, the delicacies around specific back office systems. We've always focused on public sector. We're passionate about making a difference, whether it's wards, back office, or delivering mails. And the other point is we have a direct relationship with all our customers. So it's our product. We have a direct relationship with all our customers. And what that's meant over the years is that our product roadmap and our tools have been very much shaped by listening to the public sector, our customers, them giving us enhancement requests saying, well, we need, I don't know, video functionality within our app, or etc., etc. So what we found ourselves, it's something we thrive at, working kind of in the public sector, but also the products are perfectly aligned to what we feel the requirements out there in the public sector as well.
Do you want to keep up to date with the latest in enterprise, technology, and digital transformation? Visit digitalbulletin.com for news, long reads, thought leadership, and so much more. That's digitalbulletin.com.
And what about your own background, Tom? You said 10 years. Is it beyond 10 years, or are you nearly at 10 years? What are you at now?
I think it's about 10 years. Well, I realised when I popped up on LinkedIn, it was 10 years, 2 months, when people were messaging me saying, congratulations, a decade. And until then, I didn't really quite realise if I was honest.
Well, congratulations on that. So give us a bit of an insight into your background. How did you come to sort of be in this space?
Yeah, so I mean, I'm kind of just a tech, thrive from technology, I suppose. I've always been interested in technology, growing up in through high school and college and stuff like that. So I've always been interested in that, and then I suppose out of pure chance, really, I got the opportunity to work at NDL just over 10 years ago, and never really looked back, if I'm completely honest. The good thing is, because we provide software tools, all our customers, they use our tools sometimes the exact same way, but there's quite a breadth of different solutions that customers have and members of our community have built. So it's always been really interesting, rather than just being involved in the same projects, the same type of requirements. And yeah, just I've just thrived off, really, watching customers build one solution, then move on to the next thing, then move on to the next app, and just seeing the benefits off the back of it. And obviously, as I've got older, I've understood a little bit more about like the NHS and what they do, and just built on that experience, really.
And it must have been an exciting journey, especially in the last kind of 2 or 3 years, if you consider the pandemic as well and the impact that's had on technology adoption, and many public sector organizations being forced to go down this route. That must have been, I don't know, you've kind of been on this journey with the public sector in a way, haven't you? Because the technology adoption has increased as you've gone on in your career.
Yeah, certainly. No, it's definitely, well, I think I read a stat around there's been more kind of digital transformation in the NHS in the last 12 months than the last 5 years or something like that. It's been great to be a part of it. But our experiences go back a lot longer before the pandemic, and there was a lot of trusts and organisations still doing some incredible things. We've worked with lots of trusts recently around vaccinations and testing for COVID, so that's been really nice as well. We obviously watching the news over the last year. There's been lots on the news around COVID and the pandemic. It's been quite nice to kind of sit there and think, yeah, we're assisting that. We're assisting there. We are making, we're making a real difference. So.
Yeah, no, that's great. That's great, Tom. And I guess to have that feeling about the work you're doing, the direct impact it can have on people, is what public service is all about, right? And Tom, on a final point, looking to the future and maybe taking the lessons we've learned from the pandemic about openness and sharing data and sharing technology for the greater good. Do you think going forward that's going to be a really important aspect of kind of technology and digital development in the public sector, is that organizations be a lot more open, a lot more transparent about what they're doing with data, how data can make a difference, and how technology can be used in different ways? Is that something that you sort of believe going forward?
Yeah, I think we have to. Definitely around the data point. Sharing data between organisations, but from an NDL perspective, what we really push is this concept of kind of sharing solutions. So whether it be an app or an e-form or an RPA kind of automation, it's if one trust is carrying out that process and another trust does something very similar, well, why can't those trusts work together? Really reduce that time to live, make make a difference faster, get benefits faster. That's got to be, a great thing. And
do you see an appetite from your customers to do that?
Yeah, 100%. We've got this kind of bit of a cliche that makes me cringe a little bit. But why kind of reinvent the wheel? Why do we need to do that? We have a really buoyant community of customers, and that acts in lots of different ways. So that's a mechanism for us to communicate with our customers, but also we see a hell of a lot already, and even before the pandemic, a hell of a lot of community members working together, sharing code, sharing templates, because ultimately they have the same goal. Really, they all want to empower the way that their teams deliver the very best in kind of service and care. There's lots of experience in the community. We certainly encourage it. Yeah, we'll just give you an example. We run what we refer to as the NDL Community Awards, where all kind of the members, they get together, they kind of present to each other, they explain how they've used the technology. It's all focused around kind of inspiring further usage in the public sector. And lots and lots of times customers have seen what other customers are doing and said, do you know what, we've got similar issue, and we connect them, and they they have a conversation, whether it be just sharing knowledge, whether it be sharing templates. In fact, a fantastic example actually, and just around the vaccinations. So a customer of ours, Morecambe Bay, they created a fully integrated COVID testing facility. And then they were able to very quickly share it with another 2 local trusts. And within a matter of hours, the other 2 trusts had stood up the solution, and they were vaccinated, stood it up, tested it, and then they were vaccinating. So they were the sort of stuff that Morecambe did. The process was very similar. Obviously, they changed the logo and stuff on the e-form, and they changed the integration methods and stuff. But just a great example of how working together you can really make a difference. Much faster than if you're siloed and you're on your own, I suppose.
That was the Tech for Good podcast. Listen, subscribe, and rate us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Stitcher.